Ready to rock. Yeah, that's right. That's what I said. Welcome back to another episode of Supernaturally Speaking. I am Troy.
I'm Justin.
How you doing, Justin? How's your week been?
It's been busy.
Busy?
It's stressful, yeah.
Nothing exciting? Like busy in a good way?
New position at work.
Boy.
Yeah, not quite so much doggy style anymore. It's
okay.
It's a little more comfortable.
That's good. They put a pillow under you.
Yeah.
That's
good.
That's
a little
good.
more support.
Well, you know, those shiny new badge is always a nice cushion.
Last night. Let's talk about last night. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, fantastic! Oh my God, tearjerker for those of you. We're not going to be giving any spoilers.
No spoilers.
Don't freak. No spoilers. No spoilers. Very well done. It's funny because somebody was telling me, somebody had seen, I guess, opening night.
Mm-hmm.
They were complaining that they felt it was too comical. And I was like, I could see that as a complaint, but that's, from what I remember reading about the Guardians of the Galaxy, they've always been kind of like that.
Yeah.
They're the dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, and I'll tell you right now, Drax was by far the funniest thing going on that entire movie. Holy shit!
Yes.
Too many parts were too funny,
yes.
But definitely a tearjerker at the end for me, at least. Yes. It was hard, you know.
Well, throughout the movie, actually, I mean, it was
there were a few parts, but the hard one for me was at the end. Like I had to try and dig deep down for my manhood somewhere, and try and salvage it. But, excellent movie. Saw some good trailers too.
Oh yeah.
Saw some good ones. We got. They're actually. I love it because movies now, honestly, comic books are starting to take over movies now.
Oh yeah.
Because those are the big ones that everybody's waiting on now. Like everything else in between, nothing really big comes up, and not a lot of movies in between are like getting all that hype. Mm-hmm. Wonder Woman.
Oh, dude, the trailer is getting better and better every time.
The more I watch that, the more excited I am getting about that one. And and I like some DC characters, but if I had to pick between Marvel and DC, I lean a little more towards Marvel.
Right.
Wonder Woman's looking fantastic. The new Spider-Man has some legitimate potential, but they have to do this carefully because they've already botched the last two.
Yeah. I mean, the movies themselves were good. It's just
the movie. Okay, so the initial incarnation of that series drove me up a wall because something about Tobey Maguire just makes me want to punch kittens.
Oh, you're talking about the original
Spider-Man series.
Gotcha. I thought you meant like.
And I think I was the most upset about the original series in the third one because my favorite anti-hero in the Spider-Man saga is Venom. And that whatever his name is, the guy who ended up playing him from that 70s show.
Red's
kid.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. It's something weird. He was the worst possible choice because the thing is like Eddie Brock, which is the character, is a big fucking guy.
I was gonna say,
he's a big dude,
like a jock.
Yeah. And the thing is like in the actual, it's been a long time, but in the series, the Venom suit actually kind of moves along from different people.
Yeah. But
like Eddie Brock was like as far as I'm aware, the more well known. Venom. But yeah, that guy just didn't do it for me, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So then they get to the Amazing Spider-Man, which I love these little technicalities. There's Spider-Man, and then there's the Amazing Spider-Man. They did that with the Hulk. There was the Hulk, but that wasn't the official one. The official one was the Incredible Hulk, which the Incredible Hulk was fantastic. That's the one with Edward Norton.
Yeah, Edward Norton, yes.
That one was fantastic. That one before it was good at the time only because they have not done it before. When the Incredible Hulk came out
with
the one with Eric Bana, it was only good because again they hadn't done something like that before. So you're kind of like, oh my God, this is crazy. We can see the Hulk, going just to town.
Isn't that the one that we don't speak of?
It is the one we typically don't speak of. But unfortunately, with this analysis of how Marvel has been handling their movies. But when they brought the Incredible Hulk in, they did it wonderfully. And that's, Mark Ruffalo was great in the Avengers. I wished Edward Norton could have been the one because I think he played a really good Bruce Banner.
Yeah, he did.
But with the Amazing Spider-Man, that was going in a good direction. Because I've noticed they're doing they're taking all the original like Marvel movies they had done, where they were kind of hokey.
Oh yeah.
And they're starting to follow the actual darker storylines.
Well, especially after like you get Deadpool and Wolverine and.
Well, Deadpool being recent has truly set the bar now at what these movies need to be. Avengers, unfortunately, will never reach that status because they're Disney owned.
Well, not only that, but you got to think about the market that they're trying to get. You know, they're trying to get everybody,
but see,
not just the rated R. You know,
true, but that's that's also the disappointing part about it, because it's like, okay, you know,
well, look at Civil War.
Okay, Civil War upsets me beyond all compare, because I don't believe they should have put it under the Captain America.
Oh, I'm talking about Civil War in general. The comic
in general,
series,
yeah. That is a bloody section.
Super dark.
And that's why I really believed that, like, I know where they're going with the third Avengers, with the Infinity Wars. Not a bad idea. You know, I would have liked to have seen them do the Avengers Civil War, because I think that would have been better under the Avengers as opposed to Captain America.
Right.
But again, with that sort of thing, the reason I think they did that was because, again, they're, like you said, they're aiming for that younger crowd, and you can't show them what really actually happens, where people are dying. They're not surviving. The people are ending up dead, which is why I'm curious to see what they do with Infinity War, because Infinity War is way worse.
Yeah.
Way worse.
I'm not too familiar with Infinity, but
Thanos goes on an unprecedented killing spree. You know, and so I'm just interested to see how they handle it.
Yeah.
But anyways, you got the new Thor.
Oh,
looks fantastic. And I was just talking to Lori about this. I don't know what it is. Cate Blanchett looks good normally, not a bad looking woman. But like in the last couple of movies I've seen her doing similar to this, you know, like the Lord of the Rings series as Galadriel, and this one she's playing Hela. She's looking damn sexy. They're doing her up. I'm just like she looks drop dead gorgeous as Hela. I saw her and I was just like, damn. Okay. But I also tend towards the darker features of women. So with her with the dark black hair, it's just like, okay, I can dig this. But I am curious how she destroyed Mjolnir. And that's no spoiler because that's in the trailer.
Right, yeah.
That's in the trailer, so that's no spoiler. So if you're freaking out because you think it's a spoiler, it's not.
Watch the damn trailer.
Yeah, watch the trailer, you'll know what we're talking about. Though the reuniting of him and the Hulk was pretty entertaining. Yeah. I'm curious to see how they handle that. And like you and I were talking earlier, that kind of takes out anybody who knows comic books, because of how they're doing Ragnarok, that takes out Planet Hulk. Because they're basically bringing it in now. Yeah. But it does open it up for World War Hulk. So, but again, back to what we initially started this, the new Spider-Mans, the Amazing Spider-Man series, where it's just the two. They were starting to go that darker path, but then all of a sudden it was, oh, Garfield wants more money. Well, we're not going to pay you more money. Well, guess what? Now this is over. So hopefully with this new kid, they've got him pinned for 3 movies for sure.
Yeah.
Because his little stint in Civil War wasn't bad.
Right.
And I'm super excited about Homecoming because they've got Michael Keaton coming in as the Vulture. And the Vulture setup looks fucking badass. So I'm like, okay, this should be pretty good. And just seeing the little tidbits, of Michael Keaton and the way his character is, he does it so well. He plays some evil guys really well. Yeah. Really well. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, for me right now, most of the movies I'm looking forward to are all superhero ones. There is one I stumbled across that's going to come out in June that it's about a famous figure that has always kind of intrigued me. Churchill. Okay. And it's basically the movie's called Churchill. Oh. Yeah, it's called Churchill, about Churchill. And I guess the movie's based around the 24 hours before D-Day.
Really? I haven't seen this movie.
And like what he goes through to kind of prep, because initially he's trying to stop it from happening based on past experiences. Yeah. And he's got to now find a way. Some things happen and he now has to find a way to lift the spirits of the Allies and make them believe that they can win the war. and that they will win the war. So the trailer is actually one of those ones. Yeah, the trailers I thought was really good. Just like watching it, it kind of tugs at some like the nostalgic, historic heartstrings, because you look at it and you think, Jesus, if he hadn't done this, where would we be today? You know?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like great men are built during moments like that.
Yeah.
You know, by the simple choice made. You know, do I do this? Do I do that? What do I do?
Yeah.
So I kind of came across that one. I was like, okay, this actually looks really good. So, you know, but other than that, it's all superheroes from here on out, because most of nothing else is really jumping out and grabbing me.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, some of them are
Like you said about, you know, I'd mostly go towards Marvel, but I went and saw Fate of the Furious, which was really good if you're into the cheesy Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're the best movies ever. I'm just saying that I love cheesy movies, and that is
as cheesy as it gets.
Oh yeah. 'Cause family. Anyway. Well, one of the previews was Justice League. And
you know, yeah, I've seen a couple that are.
I saw the preview on my phone, and then I saw the preview in the theaters, and was like, "This movie looks just like Wonder Woman, you know, and better and better." Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be pretty.
I won't lie, I'll see it in the theater, but I'm still up in the air about it, just because there are a few things that just kind of throw me off. Like, I'll tell you what, like, I can't remember his name, but he's like a well-known actor now. The guy who's playing Aquaman. Mm-hmm. He looks like he'll be a cool Aquaman. So I'm like, okay. They got Gal Gadot as, you know, as Wonder Woman, which I think she's fucking perfect for that spot. Batfleck, I still don't know how I feel about that. I support
Batfleck. I do.
I'm not against him. I just don't know fully how I feel about it yet, because again, I think what kills me is the voice modulator thing that kind of throws it off. And I don't know why, but he looks chubby in his suit. He does. The suit, I don't know if it's the suit or him, he looks chubby in that fucking thing. You know, I will say this, in one of the trailers I saw where he's standing there in Cyborg looks pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah.
When he's standing there and Cyborg looks at him, he goes, and he kind of makes the comment, he's like, I heard about you, didn't think you were real, and he goes, I'm real when I need to be. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, that's cool. Not sure how I feel about the Flash. He seems kind of like a goober.
That's kind of how he is in the TV show.
That's the thing. I haven't watched the TV.
In the Netflix series.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Netflix series, and that's so because I watched the where it shows Bruce Wayne sitting there, and then he goes, you know, he introduces himself, and then he goes, that doesn't explain why you're sitting in my second favorite chair. It's like, dude, it's Bruce fucking Wayne. Everybody knows who fucking Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it just I don't know.
Like in the trailer when he's like, so what's your superpower? He's like, I'm rich.
Yeah. That was actually pretty good. Yeah.
But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that one. I don't know.
Well, we kind of veered off into the movie.
Into the ether. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah.
How about that trailer for It?
Ooh.
Since we can bring it full circle back into Supernatural.
We will, you know, Justin and I have actually been discussing this, and as we approach the release of the remake of It, which, honestly, it's been a while since I've seen the original, but I have a feeling they're going to do a two-parter for this new one.
Really?
Yes, because in the original, they do a lot of flashbacks, because in the original, it's when they're adults, and there's a lot of flashbacks to when they're kids. This remake looks like it's focusing on them when they're kids.
Oh, okay.
So I think they're going to do two of them. They're going to do the one with when they're kids, and then when they return. I don't know for sure, but I think that would actually be pretty cool. But as we get closer, we're going to sit down. We're actually going to watch the original, and then we're going to watch the new one, and we're actually going to do an episode where we do the compare and contrast.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah.
I will say this, Pennywise is still looking... I mean, Tim Curry was an amazing Pennywise, and I don't think Skarsgård, I think the one playing him now, is ever truly going to beat him, but he looks creepy as fuck. Yeah. You know, like, Tim Curry just had that aura about him that he just played it so creepy.
You know, I never saw the original, so I'm excited to.
The original is definitely. I mean, it might not be as effective now just because of some of the stuff out there, but if you really sit back and think of when this was released and really just kind of in essence just take in what's actually happening in the movie, it's a very disturbing setup. You know. So, but yeah, we'll be doing an episode down the road once we get a little closer to that where we do the compare and contrast. And it's funny, Justin and I had also been discussing other movies, like old horror or supernatural movies where they had like an original and then an up-to-date one, possibly doing compares and contrasts on some of those as well. For example, The Wolfman. They've got the original and the new, which is actually my favorite old school horror monster.
Thing.
They've got the old and the new. So we were thinking about doing some of those every couple episodes just for some fun. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff you'll be hearing from us down the road. So
stuff to look forward to.
Absolutely. So anyway, we definitely veered off pretty far there. So shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do this.
So tonight we have just one topic tonight. This one's a pretty big one, so this should still kind of keep it going pretty well. Some people have heard of this, some haven't, but this is an actual documented case, and it took place in Russia, and it's known as the Dyatlov Pass incident. Okay, and it is like I said, you can find it anywhere. It is an actual documented case. We're going to kind of go over what took place and a lot of the theories, because there are multiple theories of what actually took place in this up in the mountains. Okay. So, the Dyatlov Pass incident refers to the mysterious unsolved deaths of 9 ski hikers in the northern Ural Mountains on February 2nd, 1959. The experienced trekking group, who were all from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, had established a camp on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm not Russian, so this is going to be tough. So I apologize. Anybody who does speak Russian and hears this, I apologize for butchering these. During the night, something made them tear their way out of their tents from the inside and flee the campsite inadequately dressed in heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures.
Really?
Yes. There have been many documentaries, and at the end there's like a list of some of them, and I'll list them off in case anybody wants to like come do some further investigation on this themselves or are interested in it. But I've seen a couple of them, and it's whether you want to follow the supernatural theory or the logical theories, it's all very strange. There are still little things that it's like how does not explain that.
Yeah.
So, Soviet investigators determined that 6 victims died from hypothermia, while others showed signs of physical trauma. Okay. One victim had a fractured skull, while another had brain damage but without any sign of distress to their skull.
Okay, so like a blunt force trauma.
Here's the crazy one that really, to me, throws the almost the monkey wrench in the logic aspect of it. A female team member had her tongue and eyes missing. Okay. Just one, and they were missing.
Just one female or just one eyeball?
It says eyes plural, but if I remember from the documentaries I've seen, I believe it was only one. Don't quote me on that one though. The investigation concluded that an unknown compelling force had caused the deaths. Okay. Access to the region was consequently closed to amateur hikers and expeditions for 3 years after the incident. The area is named Dyatlov Pass in honor of the group's leader, Igor Dyatlov. Okay. So...
I believe it's pronounced Igor.
Igor?
Igor.
Yeah, Igor. Hey, Igor, too soon. Too soon on the I, alright? Okay, so... As the chronology of events remains uncertain due to the lack of survivors, several explanations have been put forward as to the cause, including animal attack, hypothermia, avalanche, infrasound-induced panic, military involvement, or a combination of explanations. Okay.
Or we just don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just kind of give you a quick run, a little bit of background on some of the hikers. So a group again formed for a ski trek across the northern Urals. Original group led by Igor Dyatlov consisted of 8 men and 2 women. Most of them were students from Ural Polytechnical Institute, now Ural Federal University. So the leader was Igor Dyatlov. Then there was Yuri Doroshenko, Lyudmila Dubinina, Yuri Krivonischenko. I know, I'm butchering, sorry. Alexander Kolevatov.
Oh, I had high hopes for that one.
Shit. Zineda Kolmogorova, excuse me. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. They actually have the ages listed. So the first one, Dyatlov, was age 23. Doroshenko was 21. Dubinina was 20. Krivonischenko was 23. Kolevatov was 24. Zineda Kolmogorova was 22. Rustem Slobodin was 23. Nikolai Brignolis was 23. Semyon Zolotaryov was 38.
Jeez. The old guy in the bunch.
Actually, Yuri Yudin died at the age of 75.
Oh.
But I remember his story. It'll get to it, but he has a different situation from the rest of them. Oh. But they started together. Okay. The goal of the expedition was to reach Otorten, which is a mountain 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, north of the site of the incident.
Okay.
So they were easily within like a day's travel where they were trying to get. The route in February was estimated as Category 3, the most difficult. Wow. All members were experienced in long ski tours and mountain expeditions. So it's not like these are just new people who just fucking threw on boots and were like, hey, let's go hike this mountain. You know, so... Because that was my first initial thing. I was like, okay, is this a couple idiots who got new boots and a compass and thought they could fucking climb fucking the Himalayas? Russia. Yeah.
The motherland?
Yeah. So they arrived by train at Ivdel, which is a city at the center of the northern province. Then took a truck to Vizai, the last inhabited settlements so far north. They started their march towards Otorten from Vizai on January 27th. The next day, one of the members, Yuri Yudin, was forced to go back due to illness, which is why he made it to 75. Because he had to leave. He had to bail on the expedition early. Mm-hmm. The remaining group of 9 people continued the trek. Diaries and cameras found around their last campsite made it possible to track the group's route up to the day preceding the incident. On January 31st, the group arrived at the edge of the highland area and began to prepare for climbing. In a wooded area valley, they cached surplus food and equipment that would be used for the trip back. The following day, February 1st, the hikers started to move through the pass. It seems they planned to get over the pass and make camp for the next night on the opposite side, but because of worsening weather conditions, snowstorms, and decreasing visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west, up towards the top of Kholat Syakhl. When they realized their mistake, the group decided to stop and set up camp there on the slope of the mountain. Rather than moving 1.5 kilometers, so just under a mile, downhill to a forested area, which would have offered some shelter from the elements. Okay, so that right there, And it says here, Yudin, which is the guy who left early, postulated that Dyatlov probably did not want to lose the altitude they had gained, or he decided to practice camping on the mountain slope. That's why he believes they chose not to go back into the forested area. Even if you wanted to practice that, if the weather conditions were that bad, I still don't see how that makes sense. My personal opinion is I think something was I think they believed something was in the woods or in the forested area that kept them from going back. Like, not really like kept them, but they chose not to because they felt something was there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see here. Dyatlov, the expedition leader, had agreed to send a telegram to somebody once they returned back to Vizay, which was where they started the foot trek portion of it. He told, but before Yudin had left, Dyatlov told him, he expected to be longer because initially they were expecting to hear something by the 12th of February. And Dyatlov told Yudin it may be longer. He was anticipating it would take a little longer. So the 12th passed, no message was received, and there was no immediate reaction because, again, they assumed, okay, it was going to be a little longer. It was only when the relatives of the hikers on the 20th of February, so at that point, 8 days after the stated time that they would send something, was any kind of rescue mounted. And initially, it was done with volunteer students and teachers.
Okay.
I went up there. Later, the Army forces got involved with planes and helicopters and joined the rescue. On the 26th, the searchers found the group's abandoned and badly damaged tent on the mountainside. The campsite baffled the search party. Mikhail Sherevin, the student who found the tent, said the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. It was empty, and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind.
Huh.
Okay. So now that suggests,
chaos.
If the weather, some sort of chaotic action going on, because, again, in the weather conditions that they're believing or saying took place, you're not going to bail without at least shoes.
Right.
Okay. Let's see here. Investigators said the tent had been cut open from the inside.
Huh. Like with... Oh, okay.
Okay. So... And I remember in some of the shows I was watching, they basically said the cuts were done by a blade. Mm-hmm. So if you're cutting openings from the inside, what do you think they're cutting it for?
To escape.
To escape, or to look for something. To watch for something.
Oh.
Somebody's getting angry out there. But that was my thing. It's like, okay, because the thing is some of the cuts weren't big enough to necessarily escape from, but they were like quick, little slits. So to me, that says something's going on that they're trying to find or watch.
Yeah, I was thinking more like Peter Pan coming down the sails.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, and that's just it. It's like it doesn't specify in this like how big the cuts were. It just says it was cut from the inside.
Okay.
But I remember, like I said, from the videos or from the documentaries I'd seen, they had actually specified it looked like they cut it from the inside so they could look out.
Okay.
8 or 9 sets of footprints left by people who were wearing only socks, a single shoe, or even barefoot could be followed, leading toward the edge of the nearby woods, on the opposite side of the pass, just under a mile to the northeast. However, after 500 meters, so 1,600 feet, these tracks were covered with snow. At the forest edge, under a large cedar, the searchers found the visible remains of a small fire, along with the first 2 bodies. Those of Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in their underwear.
The fuck?
Exactly. So, again, something clearly caused panic and, like you said, chaos.
Yeah.
Because you don't just fucking do that.
But for them to start a fire,
exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, I've seen some meth heads like build some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but that's just it. These are young kids. Yeah, maybe they got into drugs, but it's like if they're experienced hikers and ski hikers and everything, I don't see a necessity or even a reason as to why they would be doing drugs all of a sudden.
Oh, well, I'm sure drugs on top of the experience would probably make it pretty
could be
life altering.
It could, but what again? It's you don't climb a fucking mountain just to take drugs. You could stay at home and take drugs. Okay. The branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that one of the skiers had climbed up to look for something, perhaps the camp. Between the cedar and the camp, searchers found 3 more corpses: Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, who seemed to have died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent.
Oh, okay.
They were found separately at distances of 300, 480, and 630 meters from the tree. Okay. Searching for the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months.
Wow.
They were finally found on May 4th under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters farther into the woods from the cedar tree.
Jeez.
These 4 were better dressed than the others, and there were signs that those who had died first had apparently relinquished their clothes to the others. Zolotaryov was wearing Dubinina's faux fur coat and hat, while Dubinina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krivonichenko's wool pants. Other notable finds besides the 4 remaining hikers was a camera around Zolotaryov's neck. The camera was not reported as having been part of the equipment.
Ooh.
Also, the film in the camera was reported to have been damaged by water. Mind you, all of this is reported.
Yeah.
We all know how governments tend to work. Let's be honest. I'm not trying to throw conspiracies necessarily. I mean, this could be a top dollar conspiracy. Right. But again, it's just strange that, it just doesn't exist.
Like, we might be able to find that film in a warehouse with a bunch of crates in it.
Yeah.
Next to
a Nazi marked box,
with aliens in it.
But I will say this: in one of the videos, the documentaries I had seen, where it suggests a supernatural ending, the explorer and the journalist that were inquiring about this had gotten access to pictures because the Russian government had finally released, and I want to say this was early 2000s that they did this. Early mid 2000s, they finally released the reports on this incident. Of course, a lot of it's blacked out, but there were also some photos. The photos weren't released, but the negatives. Somebody had actually had the negatives of the camera, and they were looking through it, and the main guy that was doing this investigation, he was like, I'm looking for anything odd. And he noticed that initially a lot of the pictures were just them doing this, doing that. And then all of a sudden the pictures had taken a strange turn to more almost nature-oriented. Like it was just pictures of the woods or just different areas. But it wasn't, they didn't come across as planned pictures. Almost like they were trying to capture something on film.
Oh, okay.
Well, in one of these photos, they actually caught something. And it looks like something large, and it looks very Yeti statuesque type appearance, and it looks like it's leaning out from behind a bush, almost like it's following them.
Okay.
And, the fact that they pulled it straight from the negatives says that it's not a doctored photo. And I found that very creepy, first of all.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a lot. Russia is huge, and there's a lot of places that most of that place does is there's no like documented anything.
Right.
Okay. So there was a picture that showed something following them.
Okay.
Okay. So anyways, part of the investigation, a medical examiner found no injuries which might have led to their deaths, and it was eventually concluded that they had all died of hypothermia. Slobodin had a small crack in his skull, but it was not thought to be a fatal wound. An examination of the 4 bodies, which were found in May, shifted the narrative as to what had occurred during the incident. 3 of the ski hikers had fatal injuries. Brignolis had major skull damage, and both Dubinina and Zolotarev had major chest fractures. According to Dr. Boris, this is going to be a good one, Vozrozdeny, the force required to cause such damage would have been extremely high, comparing it to the force of a car crash.
Oh, wow.
So, and the thing is like where they were found, it doesn't sound like there was any kind of fall indicated. Okay? So something big had to have hit them or done the damage.
Yeah.
Something huge, something strong. Huge. So massive. But thus far, they haven't mentioned anything around the sites of the bodies that would indicate what could have caused it.
Right. No footprints.
No footprints.
Tracks.
No particular piles of boulders, say, in case it was maybe a landslide. Because a large enough rock or boulder hitting your chest can easily simulate a car crash. I would think.
Yeah.
You would know that better than I would.
Yeah.
So we had that. Notably, the bodies had no external wounds related to the bone fractures.
Okay.
Okay. As if they had been subjected to a high level of pressure.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So again, there's no external wounds. So like with the fracture, there's no protrusions. So it's almost like So that would be something
squeeze.
Like either a squeeze, maybe somebody standing on them or jumping on them, perhaps. But even then, However, major external injuries were found on Dubinina, who was missing her tongue, eyes, part of the lips, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of skull bone. She also had extensive skin maceration on the hands, which I don't know what that is. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, I don't have a tablet on me.
Maceration, softening and turning white of the skin due to being consistently wet. But again, if I remember, they were actually where they found her were in a ravine, and there was a creek that ran by through there, so it could have easily been that.
True. It's like when your fingers get all pruny.
Yeah, the pruniness. Yeah. It was claimed that Dubinina was found lying face down in a small stream that ran in the snow, and that her external injuries were in line with putrefaction in a wet environment and were unlikely to be related to her death.
Okay.
So
she just kind of landed there.
Is the 5th stage of death following pallor mortis, all the mortises. This process references the breaking down of a body of a human or animal post-mortem. So they're claiming that the loss of her tongue, her eyes, and parts of her lips, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of skull bone, are all due to basically the rotting process. Which to me, and I can see the look on your face, even you look confused. To me, that makes no sense because you would think that it would be taking place in more areas, not just in the face.
Well, not only that, but if it's the weather, the conditions,
the cold conditions,
exactly, she would have been a little more preserved.
Exactly.
To have rotted so quickly. What did they find her in less than a month? I mean, there's people who have been up there that are years and years and years, and they're still frozen solid.
Yeah. Not only that, how do you explain the skull bone portion just gone? that didn't just dissolve away.
No, something had to have beat the crap out of her.
Exactly. And that's what, and it's interesting to me in the sense that because the tongues, the eye, parts of the lips, and the facial tissue, if you watch, and I've seen this on multiple shows on National Geographic and everything, animals, like the orca whale, for example, they'll hunt down like humpback whales just to get to the tongue because it's the soft meat. It's the soft meat that's easier for them to chew and digest. Okay, so you've got tongues. The tongue is missing. It's soft. You can,
Yeah.
The eyes are missing. Those are also soft. Facial tissue is fairly soft, and the lips also very soft. So whatever it is that did this, just chow down on one person.
Unless it was like multiple animals eating.
Well, here's my concern. Here's where I'm going to throw this out there too. There's 4 of them right there. Why is she the only one missing them?
Yeah.
If it was multiple animals, you'd think that they would be munching on all of them. But it's only her. Which is, to me, the strange part of it. It's like, okay, I get if it's a wild animal, I get that's what they do, but why only her? Why not the rest of them? And if it's multiple animals, they're not all going to fight over one body. They're all going to split up when they can get their own.
Yeah.
But there's no other injuries like this thus far that we found in here to explain why only her.
Right.
Okay. There was initial speculation that the indigenous Mansi people, which is like a tribe of people out there, almost like Native American type thing.
They're natives to that land.
Yeah. Might have attacked and murdered the group for encroaching upon their lands. But investigation indicated that the nature of their deaths did not support this hypothesis. Right. The hikers' footprints alone were visible, and they showed no sign of hand-to-hand struggle. Now, in the shows I've seen on this, they talk to some of the Mansi people, and they say, we had nothing to do with it. We, in fact, just warned them not to go up there because they believe, I can't remember the term for that particular, but they believe in the yeti up there. They believe there is a yeti out there. They believe it is like a spiritual creature that does physically exists. And they were trying to warn them that I wouldn't go up there, because if I remember too, I believe where they went translates to like Mountain of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, again, don't quote me. I'm. It's been a while since I've seen that show, but I believe that mountain had something to do with the dead. But the Mansi people firmly believed, and I remember in one of the documentaries I watched, they were talking to an older woman who actually was alive when that group passed through. Oh, okay. But she was a little girl. And she talks about this creature, and that she's heard the creature call out before. Okay. Although the temperature was very low, around negative 25 to negative 30 Celsius, with a storm blowing, the dead were only partially dressed. Some of them had only one shoe, while others had no shoes or wore only socks. Some were found wrapped in snips of ripped clothes that seemed to have been cut from those who were already dead. Okay. But again, it talked about them kind of like when one died, they kind of took the clothes off.
So it's almost like they all took off at once. And
it's like whatever happened, they all scattered.
Yeah.
Because you've got a group that went to one spot, another group that went further into the woods. 4 of them ended up further in the woods and died, and then that group of 6, some of them looked like they tried to make it back up to the tent and didn't quite make it. Yeah. So journalists reporting on the available parts of the inquest files claim that it states. Okay, so this is what the files that these journalists received. These are the official statements from it. 6 of the group members died of hypothermia, 3 of fatal injuries. There were no indications of other people nearby on Kholat Syakhl, apart from the 9 travelers. The tent had been ripped open from within. Okay. The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal. Traces from the camp showed that all group members left the campsite of their own accord on foot. To dispel the theory of an attack by the indigenous Mansi people, Dr. Boris, I'm not even going to try that last name again, stated that the fatal injuries of the 3 bodies could not have been caused by another human being because the force of the blows had been too strong and no soft tissue had been damaged. Released documents contained no information about the condition of the skiers' internal organs.
Okay.
There were no survivors of the incident.
True.
Okay. At the time, the verdict was that the group members all died because of a compelling natural force. The inquest officially ceased in May 1959 as a result of the absence of a guilty party. The files were sent to a secret archive, and the photocopies of the case became available only in the 1990s, although some parts were missing.
Hail Hydra.
Exactly. Hail Hydra. Okay, so we have this controversy regarding investigation. 12-year-old Yuri Kuntsevich, who would later become head of the Yekaterinburg-based Dyatlov Foundation, attended 5 of the hikers' funerals and recalls their skin had a deep brown tan. But again, the tough part, as the body starts to decay, I've seen.
Right.
Another group of hikers, about 50 kilometers south of the incident, reported that they saw strange orange spheres in the night sky to the north on the night of the incident. Similar spheres were observed in Ivdel and adjacent areas continually during the period from February to March 1959 by various independent witnesses, including the meteorology service and the military. Okay. So, now we have the extraterrestrial suggestion. Because in one of the shows, there was part of that controversy too, was it was believed that the military was testing weapons up there.
Okay.
And that's what it was. And it caused them to panic, and they scattered. And it was believed that whatever those weapons were is actually the cause of death. But again, no evidence of any kind was found. Not to mention, even if there was, the military was there. So they probably swiped it up so nobody could catch it or find it. Okay. So, aftermath. Excuse me, which, let's see here, we got a couple things here. So, aftermath. In 1967, a writer-journalist, Yuri Yarovoy, published the novel Of the Highest Degree of Complexity, inspired by the incident. He had been involved in the search for Dyatlov's group and at the inquest as an official photographer during both the search and the initial stage of the investigation, and so had insight into the events. The book was written during the Soviet era, when details of the accident were kept secret, and he avoided revealing anything beyond the official position and well-known facts. Let's see here. Apparently his book was more of a romanticizing of the accident. And apparently only the group leader died in his book. But again, I understand at that time during the Soviet era, you don't want to...
Right.
You don't want to rub the wrong people the wrong way. His colleagues, Yarovoy's colleagues, say that he had alternative versions of the novel, but both were declined because of censorship. Since his death in 1980, all his archives, including photos, diaries, and manuscripts, have been lost. Go figure, huh? Anatoly Gushchin summarized his research in the book, The Price of State Secrets is 9 Lives. Some researchers criticized the novel due to its concentration on the speculative theory of a Soviet secret weapon experiment, but its publication led to public discussion, stimulated by interest in the paranormal. Indeed, many of those who had remained silent for 30 years reported new facts about the accident. One of them was the former police officer Lev Ivanov, who led the official inquest in 1959. In 1990, he published an article which included his admission that the investigation team had no rational explanation for the accident. He also stated that after his team reported that they had seen flying spheres, he then received direct orders from high-ranking regional officials to dismiss this claim. In 2000, a regional television company produced the documentary film The Mystery of Dyatlov Pass. With the help of a film crew, a Yekaterinburg writer, Anna Matveyeva, published a fiction/documentary novella of the same name. A large part of the book includes broad quotations from the official case, diaries of the victims, interviews with searchers and other documentaries collected by the filmmakers. Jesus Christ, this is a lot of reading. The narrative line of the book details the everyday life and thoughts of a modern woman, an alter ego of the author herself, who attempts to resolve the case. Despite its fictional narrative, Matveyeva's book remains the largest source of documentary materials ever made available to the public regarding the incident. In addition, the pages of the case files and other documentaries, photocopies and transcripts, are gradually being published on a web form for enthusiastic researchers. Okay. So here are some of the explanations that were given over what took place. Avalanche. The theory of an avalanche caused the hiker's death, while initially popular, has since been questioned. Reviewing the sensationalist Yeti hypothesis, American skeptic author Benjamin Radford suggests as more plausible that the group woke up in a panic and cut their way out of the tent, either because an avalanche had covered the entrance to their tent or because they were scared that an avalanche was imminent. Better to have a potentially repairable slit in a tent than risk being buried alive in it under tons of snow. They were poorly clothed because they had been sleeping, and ran to the safety of the nearby woods where trees would help slow oncoming snow. In the darkest of night, they got separated into 2 or 3 groups. One group made a fire, hence the burned hands, while the others tried to return to the tent to recover their clothing, since the danger had apparently passed, but it was too cold and they all froze to death before they could locate their tent in the darkness. At some point, some of the clothes may have been recovered or swapped from the dead, but at any rate, the group of 4 whose bodies were most severely damaged were caught in an avalanche and buried under 13 feet of snow. More than enough to account for the compelling natural force the medical examiner described. Dubinina's tongue was likely removed by scavengers and ordinary predation. But here's the nice thing. Evidence contradicting the avalanche theory includes the location of the incident did not have any obvious signs of an avalanche having taken place.
Right, obviously.
Would have left certain patterns, debris. The bodies found within 10 days of the event were covered with a very shallow layer of snow. Had there been an avalanche of sufficient strength to sweep away the second party, these bodies would have been swept away as well. Okay. Over 100 expeditions to the region were held since the incident, and none of them have reported conditions that might create an avalanche.
Okay.
A study of the area using up-to-date terrain-related physics revealed that the location was entirely unlikely for such an avalanche to have occurred. The quote-unquote dangerous conditions found in another nearby area, which had significantly steeper slopes and cornices, were observed in April and May when the snowfalls in winter were melting. During February, when the incident occurred, there were no such conditions.
Oh, okay.
An analysis of the terrain, the slope, and the incline indicates that even if there could have been a very specific avalanche that circumvents the other criticisms, its trajectory would have bypassed the tent. It had collapsed laterally, but not horizontally.
Okay.
Dyatlov was an experienced skier, and the much older Alexander Zolotarev was studying for his master's certificate in ski instruction and mountain hiking. Neither of these 2 men would have been likely to camp anywhere in the path of a potential avalanche. Which again, like we were saying earlier, goes back to their experience. Where his buddy was like, "Oh, maybe he was practicing." If these guys are experienced, there's no practicing.
Right.
Okay. I kind of believe the not wanting to lose the altitude. I get that. That makes a little more sense. Mm-hmm. A bear, simple bear.
Yeah.
Okay. This would explain the physical trauma done to some of the bodies, and also that a tree that some of the skiers tried to break wood off of was torn up to 10 to 15 feet. Here's my issue with the bear theory. There's no external wounds. A bear is not going to be careful like that.
I mean, we all saw The Revenant.
Exactly. They are not dainty eaters.
No.
Okay.
Eat you alive, basically.
Yeah. This one I've never even heard of. So, infrasound. Another hypothesis popularized by Donnie Eicher's 2013 book Dead Mountain is that wind going around Hypoxia Mountain created a Kármán vortex street which can produce infrasound capable of inducing panic attacks in humans.
What?
So hold on, let's look at this. So infrasound, sometimes referred to as low frequency sound, is sound that is lower in frequency than 20 hertz or cycles per second, the normal limit of human hearing. Hearing becomes gradually less sensitive as frequency decreases. So basically, it's just under the normal limit of what we can hear. So it's like subsonic almost. Mm-hmm. Okay. This Kármán vortex street that it's talking about is a repeating pattern of swirling vortices caused by the unsteady separation of flow of a fluid around blunt bodies. It is named after the engineer. A vortex street will only form at a certain range of flow velocities. So basically what it almost sounds like is similar to where almost like your vertigo gets kind of set off. Mm-hmm. Maybe something, it almost sounds something along those lines where whatever this infrasound is that may, the opposite of a dog whistle, I think.
Yeah.
Where the dog whistles at a higher pitch and the dog catches it.
Yeah.
But we don't hear it. But some of us can just hear a faint, when it goes off. At a lower frequency, it sounds like they're suggesting that at the lower frequencies that it maybe caused some sort of physiological adjustment or change that induced panic.
That's interesting.
Which it is. It's hard. I don't really know. I don't really know how I feel about that suggestion because that seems. I don't know. That seems a little out there.
Yeah.
For me, which is odd because again, this isn't actual science.
I think that would be a little more believable than the avalanche.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's that one. Military tests.
Okay.
Some people believe it was a military accident, which was then covered up. There are records of parachute mines being tested by the Russian military in the area around the time the hikers were there. Parachute mines detonate a meter or two before they hit the ground and produce similar damage to those experienced by the hikers. Heavy internal damage with very little external trauma. Here's my issue. It says heavy internal damage. Well, no, maybe they released it later. Because remember it said that there was nothing stating as to whether there was internal organ damage.
Uh-huh.
But now it's stating, there's internal damage. So maybe it was released later. Okay. There were also glowing orbs reported in the sky, possibly caused by such ordnance. This theory uses animals to account for the missing nose, tongue. Yeah, I still don't believe the animal thing. Leg of certain victims. Oh, now there's a leg missing? Okay. People believe the bodies were moved. No, that's different. People believe the bodies were moved. Photos of the tent show that it was apparently erected incorrectly. Something that these experienced hikers are unlikely to have done. This theory, in particular when speculating on radiological weapons, is partly based on the findings of radioactivity on some of the clothing, as well as the bodies being described by relatives as having orange skin and gray hair.
That's weird.
Yeah. However, radioactive dispersal would have affected all of the hikers and equipment instead of just some of it. And the skin and hair discoloration can be explained by a natural process of mummification after 3 months of exposure to the cold and winds. Furthermore, the initial suppression of files regarding the group's disappearance by Soviet authorities is sometimes mentioned as evidence of cover-up, but the concealment of information regarding domestic incidences was standard procedure in the USSR, and therefore far from peculiar. And by the late 1980s, all Dyatlov files have been released in some manner.
Okay.
Paradoxical undressing. iScience Times posits that the hikers' death were caused by hypothermia, which can induce a behavior...
Hypothermia.
Excuse me, you're right. Hypothermia. What did I say? Hyper?
Yeah.
Damn it. Hypothermia, which can induce a behavior known as paradoxical undressing, in which hypothermic subjects remove their clothes in response to perceiving feelings of burning warmth. That 6 out of the 9 hikers died of hypothermia is undisputed. So that almost seems like when they tell you not to touch dry ice because it burns. You know, and if it gets cold enough, you do kind of get a little bit of a burning sensation sometimes.
Vertical Limit, if you've ever seen it, they do that. I think there's one person that dies from that also, or that experiences that. Yeah, where they start getting like way too hot from the inside out. And I want to say it was Vertical Limit. I'm pretty sure.
Could be. Oh well. Cryptozoological encounter. Now this is talking about the show that I one of the shows I watched that I was actually really into. The 2014 Discovery Channel special Russian Yeti: The Killer Lives explored the cryptozoology theory that the Dyatlov group was killed by a menk. That was the word. A menk. Or Russian Yeti. The show begins with the premise that the skiers' injuries were such that only a creature with superhuman strength could have caused them. Granted, the episode found no evidence to prove that the Yeti exists. Definitive evidence. Other options. Donnie Eicher, who investigated and made a documentary about the incident, evaluated several other theories that are deemed unlikely or have been discredited. Which they said the attack by the Mansi or other local tribesmen.
Right.
The local tribesmen were known to be peaceful, and there was no track evidence of anyone approaching the tent. They were attacked and chased by animal wildlife. There are no animal tracks, and the group would not have abandoned the relative security of the tent.
Right.
Okay. High winds blew one member away, and the others attempted to rescue the person. A large, experienced group would not have behaved like that.
Hell
and the winds,
no. Been sucks to suck.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, bye-bye.
Some people do get left behind.
Yeah. And winds strong enough to blow away people with such force would have also blown away the tent.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's... I don't think this is it, but this is a very outside the box, I guess, perspective.
All right.
An argument possibly related to a romantic encounter that left some of them only partially clothed led to a violent dispute. About this, Eichar states that it is highly implausible. By all indications, the group was largely harmonious and sexual tension was confined to platonic flirtation and crushes. Here, this answers something we were talking about earlier. There were no drugs present, and the only alcohol was a small flask of medicinal alcohol found intact at the scene. The group had even sworn off cigarettes for the expedition.
Oh, duh.
Furthermore, if they want to survive in the altitude, yeah. Furthermore, a fight could not have left the massive injuries that one body had suffered. Now, one thing I'm noticing that isn't brought up that I know can occur at higher altitudes, hypoxia.
Yes.
Which I know causes, hallucinations, things like that. That wasn't brought up, but it's a possibility. I don't know for sure what altitudes they were at.
Yeah.
But again, everybody's different.
And And then you do go into the trauma, the physical trauma and
yeah.
Yeah.
So here is, I'm going to go ahead and throw out the list of some reference points if anybody else listening to this would like to kind of look into this a little more. There's Anatoly Gushin, who wrote the book The Price of State Secrets is 9 Lives. That one I'm not even going to bring up because that's somebody just kind of taking the story and kind of twisting it to a different area. 2012 episode of Dark Matters, Twisted But True, tells the story of the incident. There was a film done, and actually Lori and I had watched this, and it was actually a good film, but they used the incident as like a base for the story, but they kind of go in a very different direction. Okay. Not bad though. It was actually a pretty creepy movie. But it's called Devil's Pass.
Okay.
Was released in 2013 in Russia, and February 28th, 2013 in Russia, and then August 23rd, 2013 in the USA. It follows 5 American students retracing the steps of the victims, but being that the movie is a work of fiction, makes several mistakes in describing the initial events. For example, inverting names of victims. Mm-hmm. But still a good movie, still a good watch.
Right.
It was one we stumbled across on Netflix.
What was it again?
Devil's Pass.
Devil's Pass.
Okay.
Go back to the what is it? Dark Matter.
Dark Matters.
Is that
Twisted But True?
Is that the Neil deGrasse Tyson?
That's what I'm gonna look at right now. It says it's a 2012 episode. Hosted by actor John Noble of Fringe and Lord of the Rings. It's on the Science Channel.
I don't know what I thought it was. Oh, never mind. I'm probably thinking of something different.
Yeah. Let's see here. The incident was featured on the Russian talk show Let Them Talk during a 2-hour special in April 2013. Russia's Mystery Files, Episode 2, The Dyatlov Pass Incident, National Geographic's, I think that's the channel it was on. So the mountain that they were at is actually also referred to as the Dead Mountain.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So somebody else writes a book on it, but more like a horror book.
Mm.
Oh, excuse me, it's a horror game.
Oh.
Polish horror game.
What's the website that you're on right now?
Right now, I'm actually... A lot of this stuff is pulled up. I found a bunch of stuff. I ended up going through Wikipedia because I had like 5 articles.
Yeah.
And everything I was finding on those articles is on the Wikipedia page. So just to kind of make it like for ease to go over it, I just went off of Wikipedia. But at the bottom, you're looking at, as far as like references, you've got 27 references.
Wow.
That, and some of these references are legit references.
Yeah.
So, I know Wikipedia is one of those things. You got to be careful because people can throw shit in. But again, not only are there that many, and these are some legit ones, a lot of this information is stuff I remember from the shows I watched.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's one of those unsolved mysteries that, there's a multitude of things it could be, but for me... I have to go, aside from the fact of what our podcast focuses on, even before we were doing this podcast, I believed it was the supernatural aspect. I do believe it's this mank that they talk about. Because again, it's if it was wild animals, which they've already kind of discredited.
Right.
If it was, they wouldn't just pick one person to chow down on.
Like but one again, bird. If it was one bird,
that's a lot for one bird to take.
Just an eye and the mouth. I mean, I I can see that.
Okay, but what about the bone, the skull bone?
Yeah, unless it was just
another one.
Pecking weird.
But that's just it. Eventually, other birds would find it. Eventually.
Yeah.
You know, and why stop on one?
Because it was full.
But then, if you had all this food here, wouldn't you chill and just keep going? Wouldn't you nest up like right there?
Yeah, I mean, unless it froze, unless you know, I mean, obviously, anything could happen, but I'm
not opposed to the military involvement. Because one thing they don't mention here that I remember from that show, from the documentary I saw, was they actually show when they're talking to Yuri, the one that left early. They were showing, I guess, when they had gathered all the equipment. One thing that was found that he looked at and was like, "This wasn't with us. It was a boot."
Das Boot.
Das Boot. No beer in it. No beer in it. Unfortunate. It was vodka. But it was a military grade boot.
Yeah. That
only the military gets. And it was claimed that was there before the military arrived.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm not opposed to maybe the military's involvement in this.
Yeah.
I don't know about a weapons test.
Right.
Because even though they're using these parachute mines, there still would have been damage to the area.
Yeah.
Of some level.
Unless it's just undocumented.
Could be that too, because again, military was involved. But it just seems odd that if the military really had something to do with it and they wanted to cover it up, why would you leave it unsolved? Why wouldn't you come up with some explanation just to put it to rest?
Who knows?
Exactly. So I encourage you, fair listeners, to, you know, look into some of this stuff, read up on it yourself, you know, figure out what you believe actually took place. You know, these are just our opinions on what is actually going on here. Again, my stance on it is I do believe the Menk exists. And, you know, call me crazy, call me a sucker, call me whatever. It's just based off of the evidence that we have been given on this. And again, I admit that a lot of it is probably still kind of hidden away. But based on this evidence, there are just certain things I can't ignore and just assume that it was something else entirely. It just, again, the one thing I keep coming back to is the particular pieces missing on that one body. You know, again, why just her? Why that specific stuff?
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, I don't buy that it was the environment and the time going by, because here's the other thing. Not only like you had mentioned about it being as cold as it should have preserved. If that's really what was the case, why didn't anybody else follow suit? Why wasn't the same kind of damage done to anybody else?
Yeah.
You know? So, but it is a mystery, and it is one of the ones that has, 59? We're looking at almost 60 years unsolved.
Yeah.
Almost 60 years unsolved. But that's one of those mysteries of the world that has always kind of, since I had seen that documentary, has intrigued me quite a bit. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty good one tonight.
Yeah, definitely. That was...
You know, so hopefully you all enjoyed that little story time, and I think we'll go ahead and end our session there today.
Yeah.
So please keep in mind, we do have supernaturallyspeaking@gmail.com. If you have any stories you'd like us to go over or anything you'd like us to look into, anything particular, and please feel free to drop us a line and let us know.
I'm going to look into maybe doing a Twitter page or a Twitter, whatever the hell it's called, handle, whatever, I don't know.
Which wouldn't be a bad idea, because you can post pictures on that.
Yeah, so. And maybe even doing social media just all around for the actual podcast. Definitely trying to expand. try and get some more followers and listeners and all of the
above.
And
then I know Justin and I have also been talking about maybe doing a few of these in certain locations.
Yeah,
to add definitely. To it, at that point, that's where the social media pages would actually come in good because we can post pictures of where we're at or what we're doing. And also we'll hopefully have a few more guests on to get some other perspectives.
Personal experiences.
That way you don't have to keep listening to our voices all the damn time. Even though they are sultry and amazing.
And soothing.
Yes. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Supernaturally Speaking. I am Troy.
I'm Justin.
Have a good night.